Come on. Okay, so let's go to choicehotels.com. The site I built, or led the team that built it. So we have a header, we have a call to action with a form. I'm glad it looks a little better on that screen than it does on this thing, on this Acer. It's almost not readable here. So there's a whole lot of styling here, some buttons. Look at this, the button has got some kind of outlining going on, some kind of depth to it. What's your destination? Phoenix. It starts auto populating. This is called an auto suggest. As I type, it'll start looking for possible things and give me an auto suggest. Date picker. So here's a date picker component. This is given to us by Bootstrap. Bootstrap created this. We did not have to program this whole thing and all of this stuff that happens here. It's just drop it in and use it. Cool. So, all kinds of stuff. Layout stuff, different columns, floats, buttons, card inside, all kinds of stuff. See, and the Bootstrap makes this happen. So, to help illustrate that, let's just look through what would happen here. So we can use the Bootstrap by simply putting this line in our HTML. So I did Bootstrap as an internet search, and that got me right here if you guys wanted to be able to get to it. And so I can copy this thing, this link to a spreadsheet. And now look at this link to a spreadsheet here. We've seen it before, if we can see it without me wiping it out. So it's got the rel of the relationship is that this link is a style sheet. And then it's got this href, and what we've had in the past has been kind of just a local little path, right? /CSS/ or style.css, right? The file, the local file name. Here we're actually going off to an outside address. We have that HTTPS, right? That means we're going to the outside world. And we're going to Bootstrap, something called a CDN. This is a thing, it's a repository of libraries. And so you're just grabbing it on the fly. As your page loads, it goes and gets this CSS file right then and there. Right as your page is loading, it's going off to this other address and getting the CSS file and making that available to our page. It also has interactions, so it has a JS file too. So here's some script tags that we would want. If we want to take full advantage of Bootstrap and all of it, including things like those date pickers and other kind of components that are highly interactive, then we need the JavaScript. That interactive part comes from the JavaScript. And so here's a start. They even give us a starter template. Fantastic. So it's got everything we need. It's got our Bootstrap CSS, and it's got our script tags. Hello world. So that's just getting set up. So now this is kind of interesting. It does some box sizing. We don't have to worry about that. But let's go over here and see what it works like. So it's got containers. They kind of wrap around things. We'll be looking at that. So you put a container around something. Container fluid means it's a little more dynamic. It stretches in different ways as the page changes. Responsive breakpoints, real important concept right now. Everybody's paying attention, right? Responsive breakpoints are when the page is being resized. If you have your console up, I'm going to put it down at the bottom. If you have your console up, when you resize the page, you get this little thing that up in the upper right-hand corner that tells you what size you are. So a breakpoint on a page size is when you get down to this size width, do something different in my layout. Maybe instead of having 4 columns, go down to 3 columns. Maybe instead of having my side nav visible by default, I'll hide it and drop it into a hamburger because it's just taking up too much room as I get smaller. So let's look for something to happen. Let's get into a part of the page that maybe has, this actually may not be the best page to look at. Let's see if we have a breakpoint. Oh, actually, let's do choice and make it break on them. Okay. And let's scroll to where there's some kind of interesting stuff. There's the form. Oh, here's some spans going side by side. Let's start going down, down, down. We're only at 1200. That's still a big screen. You know, it's because of, oh, whoa, something just happened. Whoa. Okay, 1209, 1210, 1200. There's a breakpoint at 1200 here. What happened? Yeah, something happened here. Everybody kind of jumped around. I'm trying to figure out exactly who did what. We're still 3 columns wide, but something definitely. Let's.
I think those columns just got more narrow.
Maybe that's what it was. I felt like there might have been a little bit else. We didn't have a side nav that disappeared. Yeah. Yeah, it's right at 1200. Okay, well let's go down. Let's see if there's some other breakpoints here. So I guess it just sized those down a little bit. See, they're staying fixed. They're getting closer. Okay, now they size down. Okay, that's it. They're sizing those cards down. Initially, you see, while you're inside the same break, see, right now we're in the same break, but things are still kind of dynamic. They're stretching. Our margins, our padding are kind of stretching out. Okay, then we jump to the side. The card itself, we'll call this a card, it jumped in size. And then when we went down below 1200, okay, now that we're in the below 1200, they're this size. Now as we squeeze, it's just going to squeeze margins probably. Yeah, squeeze it in our left margin, our right margin. And then also we hit a new breakpoint there at about 980. That's a common breakpoint, very common breakpoint. So we're telling it at 980, get these cards even smaller. Okay, those are breakpoints. Different size screens, and then we go all the way down to 400. Okay, all right, now we're getting down there. Okay, so buttons that were maybe on the side start flowing down below. You know, of course, the wrap on paragraphs. All of these guys wrapped around underneath each other. Our form restacked itself so we can still see everything. A lot of this stuff was all on one line. It restacked itself to make it mobile friendly so you don't have to scroll left to right. We hate scrolling left to right.
Yeah.
Okay, so it did all kinds of nice things to make this. Good job, Choice Hotels. They put some menu down here, so all this stuff there's a lot of dynamic things that happened as that's changing the size of the screen.
I like the little feedback tab that's pinned to the bottom left.
What's that? Oh, feedback, yeah. That's kind of a neat little element. It's triangle. How do you make a triangle with CSS? I don't know. That sounds interesting. Oh, and then when you hover, okay, so it's got to hover. You see that? Second I'm hovering. Okay. So it's listening for a hover.
It's a little easy to miss that though, huh? It's so far out of the way, your field.
It's a common pattern to put these little chat things down in the corner. People are seeing that more in websites. The bottom left, I'm kind of be more inclined to put it bottom right. I think left is a little hidden.
Since you read left or right.
Yeah, something. Yeah, I just feel like the left is a little odd.
It's surprising that it's visible on desktop because from a mobile standpoint, that would take up a reasonable amount of your viewport.
Right. Yeah.
Oh.
So to be able to be quite visible on desktop is pretty good.
Yeah, it's still there. Okay, they left it for mobile, but that's mobile. We're down to a normal smartphone. 400 pixels is even just an older iPhone is going to be 400. Okay, so let's look at the ways that they do this. Layout. We're on the layout. Containers. I'm going to go through this pretty quickly. Here's our breakpoints. I needed to bring that point up. So this is a media query. We'll go into this later more, but you're getting a little exposure to it. So we're saying if our media, the screen, is got a minimum width of 567, then we're going to do this CSS. If the minimum width is 768, we're going to do this CSS. Okay? If our medium is a printer, if we're printing to a printer, you guys have heard of printers, I think. It's this thing that sticks out paper. Paper comes from trees. It's an old medium. So if you're going to send your page to a printer, you need to style it a lot differently generally than on screen. Can be. You may need to make some changes. You get rid of your nav. Why? They probably want your content. They don't need your a little bit of the header maybe, but they certainly don't need your nav. So you're going to just hide some elements. You're going to do some reformatting. You can do that. You can say at medium, and there's some syntax there, but you can tell it that I'm only doing this for a printer.
Well, I have a quick question.
Yeah.
Inside the curly brace up there, where you put in your CSS that you're running for that
That size screen.
size of a breakpoint value, do you just write it then?
It's just straight
like normal
CSS?
CSS, so it would have curly braces within the bigger curly. I would be
Yeah, it's nested. We're nested,
Right.
and that's standard CSS. You can have you can say body, and I'm going to just put a little margin around the body, so nothing is right up against the edge. I'm going to put 5 pixels around the edge. That's my container, or for body, and then nested in that, I'm going to say if your body, it's kind of like our selectors where we have space. If I'm within that, but now I'm structurally putting it as a whole block. If this element is in this outer element, then also do this. We'll see more of it as we come along. So the breakpoint tells it that this thing, you can do things with, and then what it does is assigns these keywords like extra small, small, medium, large, and extra large. So that comes up in our classes. So let's move along and let's look at grid. 3 columns. Column small. We're telling it that this div is a column. What is div by default? What type of positioning? What kind of element?
block.
Block, which means it's on a new line. What's happening right here? Is it acting like a block? No, it's acting like a span. It's acting in line. The word column, COL dash something, overrode. It's a class. Somewhere in their CSS, they did display : in line if it has a class of COL.
So it's by default popping those over there into your IDs, huh?
Not IDs, classes. So what they're giving you, what they give you is about 12,000 lines of CSS. And it's class name, and there's also formatting on elements. So you'll see things like an H1 has this and an H2 has this, but then you'll see things like COL-small, and it might be, or COL-small-4. I'm going to be a 4 column, or 4, it's based on a 12 column grid. So if you want a 12 column grid, each one of these would be call SM-4. It kind of defaults now, the newer Bootstrap, you don't have to explicitly say, out of 12, how many is this going to be? You know, so it used to be it was out of 12. And my wife will be teaching classes later on when you guys get about 10 weeks down the road or whatever it is, and she'll get into this more. But so with a grid layout, like a 12 grid layout, you would have maybe 8 and 4. So column -8 for a body area, and then a sidebar for the side of 4. You know, so it's 2/3 and 1/3 your layout. Or it's the other way around for a nav. Column 3 for your nav first, and then your content would be column -9. They add up to 12. The newer CSS that we're looking at, I just kind of was browsing through it last night. I see that they don't really, I don't think it even has to add up to 12 anymore, which is kind of weird. But So, or you don't even have to specify. You can just say column, and it'll just kind of figure it out with the context. I see I have 2 columns inside of 1 row, so I'll just divide it equally into 2 calls. And this one I'll divide into 3 because there's 3 of them in this row. So you divide, you do row and then column, row and column. That's the common Bootstrap pattern. So that's our layout. Our scaffolding is another term that can be used. So there's column 5. I'm specifically saying I want this thing wider. So here I have 3 columns, but instead of making them each equal, I'm explicitly saying this middle column is going to be wider, and I'm letting the other ones just be whatever's left over. I'm not explicitly saying. They've done some sort of an offset, it looks like here. Somehow.
And did I hear you say that when you link the Bootstrap style into your CSS, that it's going to actually on its own go to your class ID, your classes in the HTML, and put.
Let's make this real. Let's do this right now. It's time to make this real. Okay. So here's a form. It's got little radios. It's got some, and there's not much styling going on. There's a little. Let's take the code. Not QuickTime. This guy. Okay. So this is the code. We've got. I think this is the right one. Adopt a kitty. Yeah. Okay. So there's a form. Look at. Now this is not with Bootstrap. Okay, this is some student in a prior class kind of designing their own Bootstrap by calling it column 6. What other? Column 6 here again. Here's a column 12. Let's look at their CSS. I'm going to put a space in so it doesn't close that on me. I'm in the wrong file. Oops, this one, not that one. Where did it go, Steph? Yeah, this one. Okay, so let's look at her body as a margin 0, kind of clearing things out. Some colors on an A. Here's an after. That's a pseudo selector. You can read about that. A focus. That's kind of cool. Okay, so here we're selecting what's this 41. Can anyone want to kind of talk through what they're seeing here? What's this first part? # kitten profile. What are we selecting? ID with kitten profiles. Article, that's a HTML5 tag, right? One of the new HTML5 tags, article. You guys have done a little bit, seen article, aside, the other ones. Colon nth of type, that's something weird. We don't understand it quite yet. Nth of something, we'll have to look that up. First line, interesting. That seems like something kind of cool. First letter, cool. There's some cool stuff in here. Kind of play around with this. I will push this up. There's a clear fix that's commented out. Clear fix common title. We talked about a clear on a float. So a clear fix in CSS is clearing the floats. And you can just download clear fixes. Sometimes a clear fix, and it does a whole bunch of, it's like your CSS and it's all inherited, and all of a sudden you get to a part in your document that all this inheritance is just totally screwing you up. You know, it needed to be there for that, but now that I'm way down into this little corner of my page, all that other stuff is really messing me up. I want to like pretend I'm starting from scratch just for this one box. I start that box with a clear fix. And then it's like I'm at the top of the document. None of my other CSS is there to inherit, or limited amount of it. So a clear fix is something you could download and you can just execute it on an element too. And they can be long. They can be hundreds of lines to do a full, really comprehensive clear fix. It's not as common of a need now in the React world. But if you were to do some like quick little page for your friend's little mom and pop shop, and you're just kind of doing a semi-staticky kind of a informational site, you might end up needing to do a clear fix. you're not going to write it up. And so here's her columns. So let's look at these. So column 4 is 33%. So we're just dividing our width into thirds. So, and it's a 12, she's doing this as a 12 column grid. So if it's 4, I want 3 columns, a third of the width. If I'm doing column 3, she's basically doing 25%. Now she's doing slightly off of 25%. Anybody got a guess?
That's one.
It's the edges, the
Margins, gutters, between columns, that kind of accounting. Because if you did each one at 25%, these things have, each box will have, you don't want necessarily these things. You might have even just 2 pixels. Even 2 pixels isn't part of that size. So now we're all of a sudden computing over 100%. And it'll push that, instead of 3 columns, we'll have column 1, column 2. And there wasn't quite enough room. We were just so close, but we were 4 pixels short because of the gutters. And it shoved it down below. Column 6, just short of 50%. Okay? If we're going to mix stuff up, so we could put a 4 and an 8 together, we got our 2/3 and our 4 is 1/3. So she just kind of wrote her own thing. What we'll see with Bootstrap is it's like this, but it's just lots more. You know, it has those small, medium, and large, which would control our breakpoints. So let's do this. How's everybody doing on time? I'd like to just keep on going for a little while. I don't know if I'm going to get to the material design. It might be just, hey, this is the alternate. But let's. So we have her page here. I'm going to go back to the Bootstrap, Get Bootstrap page here, and they gave us this. Where was it? I think Getting Started. They gave us a starter. Let's use it. So we can just copy this thing in here. Let's put that into our code. So we're going to take this line out, her style sheet, and put in Bootstrap's style sheet. Okay? Let's just go that far. Let's fail fast. And let's just see what happens. Now, because she was naming some of her stuff, all of a sudden this thing looks different, doesn't it? Let's do a quick toggle. What's my zoom level? This might be a little extreme. Okay. Okay. Submit kind of went off the side. Been a little change. Let's just quickly toggle between those 2 modes. So I've got it here. Let's Command Z. Save. Go back. Okay, it looks like that. That's with her style sheet. Put the Bootstrap back in. Okay, it's pretty much the same, so let's start tweaking it though. So now we have Bootstrap. So let's see what kind of things we can do here. It's kind of right up against the edge. Everything said it could have a container. Let's put a container around the whole thing. Oh, she's got something called main. That looks good. Oh, and then she's got header. Let's put it right on the body. So instead of writing anything here CSS-wise, all I'm going to do is say class equals container and save it. Whoa! Look how much that changed with that one, not even a whole line of code. We got a container around it. Let's go on. Wow, that's cool. And why did I know container? Well, I remember that, but you guys don't remember that. So you went to the documentation and you went to kind of getting layout. Oh, containers. Containers, what do you think containers do? Contain things, yeah. Oh, class equals container. It's the most basic element. It'll talk about it meaning 100%. You know, oh, container fluid. Huh, let's try that one. Let's see what's the difference. So I have container, and container looked like that. Oh, okay, it pushed it more out. Instead of just trying to center it up in the center, it's more fluid. It's going to try and go to the edges of the screen. It's still going to leave me my little padding, but it's saying it's fine. You know, a lot of pages, when your screen gets this wide, you don't want your paragraphs to go that wide. That's not really readable. So that's the unfluid one. Yeah, it's doing lots of great stuff for us already, Bootstrap, and we haven't hardly started to touch it. Yeah. So what do we have here? We have column 6. We don't need the column. That was her thing. And these are the two parts of the form, right, with the radial kit. So we're dividing it into two. Let's change that. Let's make this one a little wider and this one be a little smaller. So it's kind of a 2/3, 1/3. With me there instead of equal. Let's fail. Oh, that's kind of nice. I kind of like that better. Seeing the difference? Are we going brain dead? Okay, then don't worry about it. I won't ask questions. I'll just keep talking for you to see this and let it wash over you for a few more minutes. Wash all your troubles away. Okay, so let's say that's neat. Let's do something even more fun. Let's say, man, when the screen gets too small, I don't think I want them side by side anymore. So how would I do that? I'm going to just do it for you since you guys are brain dead. I'm going to say when it's small, I'm going to go to 12, the full width. And so that way, I'm actually going to be explicit though. So medium and bigger is 8 and 4. And, oh, we got to be inside it. We just put spaces. When we're putting multiple classes on the attribute, just space. And now we're going to say column small is going to be 12, meaning don't go side by side.
All right, hang on. That's cool. So then notice that.
Let's see how it affects. Let's fail. Let's fail or not. Okay, so far nothing changed, right? Okay, nothing changed. Why not? Viewport size. Well, how big are we? We're pretty big. We're not even to medium. Medium's like at 700 or something. Okay, we're still not there. We're doing dynamic. We're fluid. You know. Wait. We're still just adjusting. It's just Bootstrap. It's not me yet. I haven't gone stacking. There we go. We just hit small. Now I'm now at 12. I'm making this be fully across.
So it's the so go back to the CSS for a second.
There's no CSS. We didn't have to write a line of CSS. We're in the HTML. We're just utilizing someone else's CSS
Right, I
now.
understand that, but there is CSS at play. So because those classes are dynamically changing based upon what? On
It's the class.
So that's that app property when you're in the CSS file. So go to the style CSS for a second.
This is not in use anymore. We commented that out. That was this person's local. We are now going to the internet to get our CSS. Command, click.
Okay.
There's the CSS. Okay, let's read this. Okay, so what were we looking for? We were looking for column
I
dot
wanted to see how it knows to change to
column 4 SM. Oh, I'm not even finding it. It hasn't buffered enough of this to see it. It's still buffering. This thing's so huge. This is minified code. It's taking out all of the white space. Okay? Why would we do that?
Make it faster and save data.
make it faster. It has to download this from an internet call. If it's all the white space is out, it's fewer characters to download.
So somebody wrote that at some point, and it looked like what we're used to seeing.
It looked like what we were used to
put it
seeing.
into something to
And then they
reduce it.
minified it. They run a process. If we look at this, oh, min.
Uh-huh.
Minimize.
Just out of a, just try it, who knows, but let's just see if they used a convention. Now let's command to that. Oh, hey, it's not minified anymore.
Cool.
Okay,
It's readable.
it's readable. They wrote a lot of CSS for you. You see where my scroll is on the right side? Oh, they wrote a lot of CSS for you guys. And it's free. Go figure.
Wow.
Brand new age. Okay. So that's, there's a lot more there. Gosh, it would be fun. Let's do, well, I didn't bring in, there's the components. We're low on time, but we'll get back to this. I think we'll bring it in again maybe on Monday a little more. Look at their components, because that's when things get super, like being able to drop in a date picker without writing a single line of JavaScript.
Pretty cool.
I mean, wow, that would be fun. So we'll have to do that. Now, okay, so that was Bootstrap. And the other one that's out there is Material Design. We're not going to go as far on it, but I'm just going to show you that it's another one. And Material Design, when I just say Material Design, that's actually a design philosophy and not just specifically this library. The library that I'm getting that is based on the design concept of Material Design is called MUI. It's a CSS library and JavaScript, so it also has these, fun little drop downs and components. But it's a different layout. Watch very carefully as I click drop down. Watch the animation after I make the screen not be totally dead. You guys, I don't know, is it showing up there?
Yeah.
You see that? Okay.
Do it again?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let me click it again.
Okay.
Boom.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Let's look at some other things. Do we have a... They also gave you the boilerplate HTML. Nice. So here's the script, your CSS, it's been minified, and then there's the JavaScript file you would need for these interactive components like divider or like drop downs, and there should be, oh, look at this. They even have specialized stuff for React and Angular. We're in the CSS JS. So if you're going to go to this thing this weekend and style your pretty page and your table with one of these libraries, you don't want to use the Angular or React version. You want to use the CSS JS version. You're just doing straight CSS JavaScript. So there's containers and buttons and stuff like that, and dynamic components, and oh boy, it's so much fun. So the big difference style-wise is Twitter created Bootstrap, Google made Material Design. Lots of the world is going towards Material Design. When you look at your phone, you look at YouTube, that's Material Design. You look at Gmail, that's Material Design. The design philosophy, we're looking at it right now. This screen itself is designed with Material Design. Features of Material Design are these sharp, no border edges. Everything is just, it's a flat paper kind of thing. So you don't have the Choice Hotels thing. There's going to be more margin around stuff. Things don't butt up to each other as much. Lots more use of shadow around things like that. Buttons don't have that weird interaction, that little animation thing. So it's a different, you can see that just the feel is different. The sharp line kind of thing. See how different that feels? And you look at your YouTube, Gmail, every Google product out there is material design, but lots of other people. I think even Twitter now is probably more material design than it is Bootstrap, even though they wrote it.
Efficient and probably
It's not efficient, it's just people are getting used to seeing it. Even the Apple phones, you know, because material design came out of Google, so corporate arch enemies, Apple and Google, right? So Google apps definitely had kind of a Google design to them up through about 4 or 5 years ago. Now you are seeing a lot more Apple apps on the iPhone that look very material.
Well, this probably works
It's
better
winning.
on the phone, right? Because it just takes up less space.
Yeah, it's
stuff.
just taking over. You know, I mean, my wife will be able to talk more fluently about that kind of stuff, but. So anyway, so we can use it and we can plug in quickly to it. We can drop in all kinds of dynamics very quickly without writing the JSS or the JS or the CSS. I mean, really neat. Tables, you know, let's look at their tables. Do they have, view and tab. Okay, well that doesn't seem that exciting, but I'm sure it gets better. That's not a very good example. There's probably some better examples you can look up on the web. Typography tabs, overlays, grid system. Oh, there's stuff specific to form. There's your grid. Let's look at the form. Oh, okay, so and then also you can see the classes start with MUI dash. So it's kind of fun because your code, and if we do our layout, here's layout. So blog. Oh, we're kind of in the examples. That might be why I'm not quite. Oh, there's a hamburger taken. Example layouts. Started. Okay, let's go to. I guess it's grid. So layout. Oh, look at this. Look at what you can do to your form. That's looking kind of cool. Yeah, so placeholder text instead of labels. Remember that. Here's with labels and placeholder text kind of floating above. Fixed labels. That kind of a look. There's a text area. Floating labels. Watch this one. Oh, there's the value. It's already there. Okay, watch this one. Input. It looks like when you're not on the field, it looks like a placeholder. You click into the field, it becomes a label.
Nice.
Cool. Neat stuff. Radio buttons. A lot more styling that you would spend hours trying to get it to look like this. They just did it for you. Check boxes. You know, so in our code, it's almost so close that here we are kind of like set up for a Bootstrap. If we were to swap in the MUI style sheet in here, you could almost just go through here and just type MUI dash, and you'd be picking up the new class name convention. So they did that on purpose to try and make it easy to upgrade to me. Use me instead. I'm going to make it easy for you. So it's kind of fun. How y'all doing? The links to these two style frameworks is in your README. So it's something to consider. It's not necessary, but I consider doing it for your page this weekend, using one of these, or you're writing your own CSS. But try it out. Either one of them. Okay, I'm going to stop the recording.